Love podcasts, hate nonsense. It's the PoliticsJOE podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Another Monday. Yeah. Another podcast. Every time you speak, you got to click.
Should we not be doing that for...
For deaf people?
No, it's for anxious people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You can deaf and anxious, I suppose.
Well, I think if you're deaf, you would know that was... You can still see that action.
Yeah, but the anxious people can see that as well.
No, but anxious people can hear it. That's the problem.
All right?
Yeah. I'm glad we got to the bottom of that.
Me too. Nice weekend?
Yes, thank you.
You?
No, I had your sickness.
In many ways, everybody has my sickness.
Did you see that someone yesterday tweeted that you should be the host of Have I Got News For You when I think their phrasing was like when Hislop cops it.
What? So they said Ollie should replace Ian Hislop?
Yeah.
I think Ollie would expedite Hislop's death in order to achieve that.
Would you?
Yeah, I guess there's probably like a few people that hold positions in media that there's a running joke in my WhatsApp groups that like we just have to basically release compromat about in order to make way for me to take their position.
Who's in your
well,
way?
I'm not going to name names.
No, I'm curious.
There's a guy called Ed Campbell.
Right.
Going to take him down.
Okay. I think we're slightly different trajectories. I think if we were on the
You're
same...
going to the moon, sir.
I think if we were on similar trajectories, we would not work at the same company.
But you're going for Ben Leo's job.
Yeah. Oh.
And
He still blocked you on
Yeah,
Twitter?
I'm so annoyed. I'm so desperate to know what he's
why
up
did
to.
you get blocked?
Because I think I retweeted one of his tweets. For the audience, if they don't know who Ben Leo is, which would be astonishing, he's a GB News reporter, and he's the guy who went into Greenpeace and was like, "Where is everybody?" And it was sick, and I just really enjoyed his content. And I think I just retweeted him, and then he blocked me. Because he was one of the guys doing like live reporting from Sydney when Nigel Farage was in the jungle.
Yes.
Which is a dream job, if anything.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Pretty good gig.
I embarrassed myself in front of a whole bunch of them. The other guy who went to Australia from GB News, who took over from Ben Leo.
I'm more a fan of Ben Leo than I am GB News.
Okay, well, there was a whole and then at the farmers' protest last Tuesday I wanted to go and get something, like film something quickly, so I leapt over a wall, obviously, and in doing so, there was like beer bottles. So like all they saw was like me getting over a wall, and then like 4 beer bottles crashing to the floor, and they were like, "Yours?" I was like, no.
No, I only have 3 beers actually when I'm working.
But yeah, the Hislop interview's out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, actually. I watched it this weekend.
Thank you. I thought it was on good form.
I'm a traditionalist, so I'll be watching it on New Year's Eve. Given it a year in review.
What's your New Year's Eve programming? Do you big fat quiz of the year?
Just Hislop on loop. the Hislop.
You start by reading the Private Eye Manual. Annual. Yeah.
Annual. A guide to witty repartee.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that then, really, isn't it?
Well, this would be a good segment of the podcast. They'll enjoy that bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we transition to discussion of weighty matters? Or should we carry on here for a moment?
Sure. I mean, I could tell you about how I'm inundated at the moment on TikTok with like fan cams of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of that as well. That's creeping into my feed.
Really enjoyable.
I get a lot of TikTok edits of Tony Blair versus William Hague at PMQs.
Yeah.
Do you think that the death of John Prescott has kind of reawakened New Labour content creation?
This was happening before.
It was happening before, but it definitely reawoke the lion in me.
You're making edits to Casual by Chapel Roan
Well,
of Gordon Brown and Tony Blair.
Bleachers have put out this like really melancholy like
Merry
Christmas song.
Please Don't Call.
Yes, and it's like it's kind of got it's almost like it's achieved like a level of melancholy not since heard since Wham's Last Christmas. You know what I mean? The internet girls have really jumped on it, and they've like they've made it about Brown and Blair and the fallout at the end and how they were best friends, and now Brown's like, please don't call me. It's wonderful.
Strong.
I'd like someone to do one to That's So True by Gracie Abrams. I think that would...
I don't like Gracie Abrams.
Really?
I've got a real vendetta against her, and I cannot stand seeing anything from her. I think it's the sort of like unabashed Nepo baby of all of it. It just really annoys me.
But then it'd be worse if she was abashed.
You want to hit her?
You said unabashed, so I assumed abashed must mean the opposite.
Okay. I think the only one I don't mind being a Nepo baby is like Margaret Qualley, and that's because she said that funny thing being like, what are you talking about? My mum fell off in the 80s. I thought that was quite funny.
I don't know who you guys are talking about.
Okay.
Do you not?
Nope.
Gracie Abrams?
Nope.
J.J. Abrams' daughter.
Oh, yes.
And is a singer.
Okay.
And has...
But J.J. Abrams makes films.
Yeah, but I suppose he probably knows some creative people.
Right.
It's sort of like how your children will probably end up, with a podcast.
Would you be proud if in like 40 years
I give you the riches of the earth,
So
my podcasting empire, my empire of dirt.
So in like 30 years, your daughter plus mine and neighbour's children have a podcast. Would you be proud of that?
No,
I wouldn't either.
I would.
What was that thing that you said the other day about you don't mind who your children bring home as long as there's only one of them?
Yeah, there was a funny meme that was like #polyphobic.
Yeah. Should we tell? Yeah, we'll tell the story we just told about being in Calais. Tell that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
So Ava and I were in Calais reporting on migrants and
whether or not they're polyamorous.
Yeah. What's the state of polyamory in the jungle?
That's the most advice thing of all time.
Yeah. And turns out the guy who was shooting it with us, polyamorous, swinger.
I think more swinger than polyamorous. No. Yes, polyamorous because he had a relationship with someone else as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'd swing together, and he was kind of detailing his swinging schedule to me in the front of the car. At which point, after he'd relayed that he sort of has 4 other couples that he and his partner would see monthly, and they were scheduled in so that they'd see them once a week, they would swing. At which point I sort of forlornly, or just sort of like quite squarely said to him, oh, just the one for me, actually, when he asked me what I was into. Did you laugh when you were in the back of the car?
Quietly, I did, yeah.
Quite
to be honest, I was laughing through the entire conversation, but it's because I wasn't in it. I think that you both had forgotten I was in the back of the car, and you were just...
Yeah, I don't really know how you involved, just turning around into the back seat being like, do you swing, Ava? My junior colleague, tell me about your sex life. Yeah, no.
I think that's quite an odd work thing, but if Sean wants to have that conversation with you,
Yeah,
then
well, look, Sean's
right.
Sean's a fucking reprobate, isn't he?
He's in Dublin right
Swinging,
now, isn't he?
yeah, swinging.
Yeah, swinging.
Swinging in Dublin.
He's booked off.
I think he's actually
weeks of the calendar.
with the Tornister right now. Yeah, him and Mihal.
Swinging.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Would you believe it?
Yeah.
Do you think that would affect
No,
the
they
outcome?
finished already. They've gone for, what's that chicken roll thing they like?
Chicken fillet roll.
Leo Bracker, of course, likes his spicy.
He looks like he's going to his Debs.
Who else did he interview? Claire Daly, whilst he's over that. It's on the PoliticsJOE YouTube channel. Go and check that out. It's worth your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did some good coverage with Sean.
Very good work.
Needs to spend less time working and more time swinging whilst he's out there, if I'm honest.
He's looking forward to getting back and dropping the accent. He's been exhausted over there. Having to cosplay as an Irishman to get the interviews.
I suppose it's a nervous thing, though. He the first time he was on camera, he put on an Irish accent at the moment, and he just kept it up.
It's impressive, really, isn't it?
Yeah, no. Professionally complicated, but he's made his bed.
Which one?
All 4 of them. Should we talk about New Labour?
Yes.
Please. I actually did already tee you up for a segue, but you totally missed it. You were like, swinging.
Oh, really?
Well, I was talking about Tony Blair and
Yes,
Brown, wasn't I?
yeah, fan
And then
cams.
you were like, no.
I liked our Prescott fan cam
Which one?
on TikTok. Did quite
Oh,
well.
that one, yeah. I thought
Yeah.
you meant Laura made one, but I don't think it saw the light of day.
No, I don't
That
think we
was just-
published that one.
That was just that was just something for me, Laura made.
Was that just like an actual fan cam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick. What song was it?
We could put it in here, actually. Here we go.
Safe there cause they know I'm the ICTIRL. You know I am that girl. Bitch, don't kiss and tell. It go from ATL.
Do you think that there is an appetite for New Labour?
I think there's a thirst for change.
And things can only get better.
D. Ream asked them to stop using that, didn't they?
Yeah, that's tough.
Well, do you want to know what Keir Starmer's favourite Taylor Swift song is?
Well, fucking hell, if he's got one, fair play.
It's Change.
How does change go?
Sing it.
I'm not even trying to take the piss.
He-
I don't,
But
know
I
that
don't
song.
think that you would know it, but you might also know it from, it was Liz Truss's entrance song to one of the leadership debates.
That's right.
There was contention because she used Scooter Braun's version and not Taylor's own version.
And so the Swifties within the Conservative Party were not going to vote for Liz Truss then.
Yeah.
It's impressive that he has a favourite Taylor Swift song, because obviously today he doesn't have a favourite Christmas film. He's previously said he doesn't dream.
Oh yeah.
He's previously said he doesn't have a favourite poem. He previously wasn't able to tell an interviewer what colour his tie was. Like he for him to have an opinion about Taylor Swift's music is actually quite out there for him.
That's because he's all politics and no bollocks. He just goes home and lies in the mausoleum, doesn't he? He actually just goes into one of those like dry freezers of an evening and then they bring him out in the morning again.
All poll, no balls.
Just listening to focus groups over and over.
Yeah. His mind.
Folklorist groups.
That's good, that, isn't it?
So Asbos are coming back.
Woo! The 2000s are back again, baby.
Tony and Gordon on TikTok. Asbos on the streets.
Hoodies. Are we going to hug them?
I think it was the Asbo news that killed John Prescott.
I don't actually know what he died of.
Nor do I.
Alzheimer's.
That's a fucker,
So
isn't it?
presumably he'd forgotten all about New Labour.
It's not even been a week.
I love John Prescott.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine. Are they actually Asbos?
Respect orders is the name.
But like in terms of their content rather than the branding of them.
Vivek Cooper said they're in the spirit of the original legislation.
Yeah.
We're picking up the legacy. I think they're a more narrow set of restrictions.
The problem is that they don't have any court time available.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so they
God.
had to make them more restrictive.
And also no prison space.
I actually do remember, I have this very vivid memory of being in school and like they used to put your like name on the board if you were
Asbos.
like, yeah, it was called like the Asbo. And then she'd like put your name on there and then she'd be like, it's not a badge of honour, this.
That for me feels more. Presumably the kids weren't actually getting Asbos, right? She was just saying.
No, we did have a few with Asbos.
But the
But
Blackboard one wasn't.
The blackboard was more in the spirit of Asbos.
Oh, in the spirit of Asbos,
Yeah.
yeah.
an order
Sorry, I
mark.
thought you just meant in general. No, but a couple of them did. But I remember them getting them for like I think they were doing like balloons in the park or something like that, and I think they got them off of littering rather than like anything violent. Do you know what I mean? Like I think it was like a littering offence that they'd
From leaving the
committed.
canisters around.
Yeah.
It's basically British heritage now, isn't it? Doing balloons in the park.
Do you know, I was on a date once, and you know when you're like, you go on a date and you're like, this is not going to go anywhere or whatever, and then he's like, I'll walk you home, and I was like, oh, fucking hell. Like, anyway, so then outside man, I'm like, anyway, I'm going to go, and then there was these boys outside who are regularly doing balloons outside my flat, and they're like quite big guys, and he's like, oh mate, can I have a balloon? And I just opened the door and just shut the door. I was like, that's enough. Like,
That's the way to salvage the first date, is just doing balloons.
yeah.
Should we hang here? This is a pretty cool vibe.
It's also like he was like the most public school boy, like, and these big guys. He's like, "Oh mate, can I have a balloon?" You know, he says things like "party."
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
Ooh.
transatlantic leisure class.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I enjoy seeing the huge crackers. You know the sort of like, they look almost like a 2-litre bottle of Coke. And quite often on the way into work, or whenever really, you'll see like one of them, and then like maybe a small bottle of whiskey, or like Hennessy or rum or something, maybe some rare nephews, and you'll just be like, this is like a relic of the past. Activity has taken place in this corner of this car park.
You're like an archaeologist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know the way they like people say you can identify like the Anthropocene by like chicken bones. They think that's how people will be able to identify us. Wrong. It's the laughing gas canisters. That's the mark of 21st century Britain.
We would be remiss, I suppose, to make light of the scourge of hippie crack
Yes, of course.
and all the victims of the hippie crack
the hippie crack epidemic. Yeah.
I had one of my friend's girlfriends works in A&E, and she was like, at the time, she was like, it's so serious, you know, I just saw a girl the other week who was in from laughing gas, like, it's not funny. And it was like, well, how many balloons did you have? And she's like, 40 a week. I'm like, 40?
If you're having 40 of anything a
Of
week,
anything.
Yeah.
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 do you
I mean,
know-
it works by blocking oxygen to your brain, doesn't it? So probably not the best.
Do you know Bishop's Park in Fulham?
No.
No.
It's like a lovely park on the river. And one summer's day, I was there on a Sunday afternoon, and there was these two lads sitting with a speaker, blaring drum and bass, just ripping balloons. I was there for like 2 or 3 hours, and they were just balloon, balloon, balloon for 3 hours.
It's pretty punk. Have I told you I used to sell balloons? Have I told you that story before?
Did you? You were a hippie crack dealer.
Yeah, I was a hippie crack dealer, yeah. I told you that story
You
before?
destroyed families.
Yeah, many families. No, it was a good little money-making scheme. If you throw a house party at uni, then you'd sell them all tickets to one of your nights out later that
As a promoter?
evening. Yeah, as a
Yeah.
promoter. But obviously, you'd only make so much commission on the ticket sales. I think maybe 50p or a quid. So what you then do is then you'd sell laughing gas to everyone at the party. And that way you're then making some pretty serious returns.
I think if someone tried to sell me something at a house party, I would not buy it at university.
Yeah, but you wouldn't, would you?
Why?
Tie ass, you know?
Get somebody else to buy it.
because I'm against hippie crack.
Yeah. When was the last time you got your wallet out, pal? Yeah.
Ed the bag fiend, getting everyone else to buy the drugs and
It'd be
then
very-
railing all of it himself.
It'd be tricky in this day and age, wouldn't it? Because presumably you took cash.
Yeah.
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 Well, in the
I had
cashless
a
society-
float. Yeah. Yeah, I had a float, yeah.
No,
A
you
lot of pound coins.
With like a little belt.
Yeah, 100%. I had a satchel.
Wow, okay.
I had a satchel that had all the canisters, the balloons, and
And
the
then
change
your
in.
George Orwell.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, my copy of
Not
1984.
It's my rigging time.
I also had a mate, not at Cardiff with me, who, when everyone would go on a night out, just would stay in bed doing balloons.
Right. Is he okay?
He's fine now, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's fine now.
I think
I don't
that's more a
think
symptom
in-
of something else.
Yeah, in this era of men's mental health, I don't think that would have just passed by.
No, you'd have had to like put on a podcast for him at least.
You've been radicalised by.
Jacob Free.
Became obsessed with high performance, yeah.
That's-
High performance.
That's the only remedy.
Come on, let's talk about Asbos.
Yeah.
Are you excited
For the return.
for a crackdown on antisocial behaviour?
Starmer said something interesting on This Morning.
It's fun. It's clever that they did that, isn't it?
You know, yeah. Anyway, he said that theft under £200 has been essentially decriminalised. So they're bringing back in measures to stop shoplifting. They won't take you to court over under £200, and they will now. Presumably, this is where the restrictive Asbos are going to come in. I don't really know how that's going to happen, though.
But this is the thing over and over again, isn't it? It's like the justice system's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that, you know, you can point to all these problems at the decriminalisation of X crime, but the reason it's effectively been decriminalised is because they can't process them, right? Whether it's the police being under-resourced or whether it's the courts being jammed full, or on the other side of it, although I can't imagine you'd get jail time off shoplifting 100 quid's worth of whatever. But even if, let's say they wanted to, there's nowhere to put you in prison. Like, in some ways, it's actually symbolic of like the ginormous problem for Starmer in that the British state has been sort of eroded, underfunded, and has become sclerotic, metastasized even. It's sort of frozen.
Metastasized?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, Cummings.
Did you see he did a 2-hour-long interview?
With who?
Like an Oxford College about AI?
I keep asking him to do things, and
Yeah.
he doesn't reply to me.
Well, because you're not going to do 2 hours on AI.
He replies
are
to
you?
No,
everybody
but
else.
I know, but I say, would you like to come on and talk about WWE with me? Which I think is right up his street.
He's more of a WWF man.
Yeah?
Too modern.
Yeah, it'd be good if he came on, wouldn't it? I think
What's
that's a banging interview.
metastasized?
It's like when.
No, sorry. What did you think
Oh,
has?
sorry.
But
Like
thank you.
the British state. Look, it's because of sort of structural problems, underfunding. Anything that Starmer wants to do, he essentially has to simultaneously radically reform the area that he wants to deal with, whether it's healthcare, whether it's justice, whether it's house building. He simultaneously has to radically reform the entire process as well as plough tons of money into it. And it's like an incredibly difficult thing for him to do.
Well, also, if he wants to do anything with the justice system, he risks being labelled as like an aficionado of like the police state. Because if you want to crack down on shoplifting, well, you're going to have to bring in more police officers, right? You're going to have bobbies on the beat. But people don't want that. They think they want that. They don't.
Well, they don't want more police on the street.
They don't. Because you think about protests or whatever, or the moment that you actually do see a big horde of police officers, everyone goes, whoa, 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 look what Starmer's doing.
I think.
Like 200 cops in riot gear marching on a Tesco in like a fucking retail park.
I'm not sure that's the opinion of the vast majority of the British public.
I think
is the censorious left who object to that. I would say.
I think
I don't agree. The right object to that as well.
I think most people want more police.
Yeah, I think if they saw police arresting a shoplifter, they would go, great, job well done.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe speaks to.
The problem you've got at the moment is that a lot of these companies having to outsource to like G4S and Serco and that to have like security guards at the front of shops. And those people don't tend to have, if you think about like the army being like the pinnacle of like upstanding behavior, camaraderie and like working within a team, then the police is sort of like the next stage of that, but broken down a little bit. Okay. And then if you go like all the way through like rats in hordes of animals and pigs, then you get to security guards. Like, what? And they have no care for your well-being, no due diligence. I would actually say they're really not upstanding individuals at all.
They're worse than rats and pigs.
Have I ever told you about my experience at the Slug and Lettuce Romford?
I think if your point about Starmer essentially wants the state to function.
Yes.
And that is his mission statement. And it sounds really, really weak and not that energizing because everyone wants the state to function. The state should function. But it actually is quite radical at the moment because the state does not function in the capacity that anybody would like it to. So Starmer, in his messaging, seems unambitious, seems as if there's no mission of this government because getting the state back to kind of just like zero, where it should be at all possible times, is actually quite a big mission. And just pointing that out probably isn't good enough.
I feel like this question about the state is the most interesting place for me because I feel like the easy thing to say is Starmer is New Labour continued. That basically Corbynism was a blip where the Labour Party, for a very brief period in time, pivoted back to its heritage and tradition of socialism or social democracy. But actually, your inclination is to go, right, Starmer's back, so actually Corbynism was an outlier, and actually for the last 40 years, the politics of the Labour Party have been centrist, capitalist, and broadly speaking, I would say, quite authoritarian. But the point about the state is different because the New Labour believes in the power of capital, the power of finance, and the power of deregulation. And I'm not sure necessarily that Starmer is entirely on the same wavelength. I think he does see a role for the state. You know, for example, if you're looking at like green energy would be a pretty classic example of that, as well as the arguments you're making there. And I think it's reductive, basically, to say he is Blair, and I've said he is Blair before without the smile. But I think it's slightly more complex than that, even though he's surrounded by all these New Labour figures.
Well, I would say that Wes Streeting was Blair. He's the closest thing that you've got. Because even if you look at the person who wants to bring in banning smoking, banning vaping, facial recognition cameras, ID cards, all of that is Wes Streeting, and that is Blairism.
That's the heir to Blair, yeah, for sure. But I mean, they're all in there, right? They're all in his cabinet. Whether it was via peerage or recent election, like Douglas Alexander, Jackie Smith, then obviously MPs, Liz Kendall, Pat McFadden, Peter Kyle. These are all people.
I don't think Peter Kyle is that Blairite though, really.
He was a
compared to
he
someone
was an
like
advisor.
Pat McFadden.
He was no. I guess there are shades in this, but Peter Kyle was
Shades of Blair.
Yeah.
50 Shades of Blair.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Peter Kyle was an advisor in the New Labour years, then gets elected as an MP. I would say his politics are on the right of the Labour Party, but I mean, that's a conversation we can have. Jonathan Powell, right? The only special advisor to Blair that lasted the entirety of his time in government, has now become Keir Starmer's national security advisor. And I actually kind of understand the impulse, right? Because I think if you look at Starmer's first 100 days in government, I wouldn't say they were a success. I think they were quite difficult for him, tricky. I mean, his personal polling has tanked. And so I understand the reflex to go, the way we've been running this is perhaps a little bit amateurish. We need to bring in more people that have been a part of government in the past and understand how this works.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where you end up with, like, the Powell appointment in particular, which is obviously more recent. Those MPs have been part of the campaign. Pat McFadden, certainly, for a long, long time.
Because that's a criticism that's levelled at Starmer often, actually, about him not understanding the inner workings or inner machinations of the Labour Party. He sort of rose to prominence very quickly, and he never actually got to grips with how you elect people and how you appoint people, because it doesn't work the same way as the Conservative Party.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that perhaps people on the Labour left rue is not consolidating their power on, like, the internal mechanisms within the Labour Party. That if they hadn't been so sort of one-dimensional, short-sighted and all in on Corbyn, and actually thought a little bit about internal reform of the Labour Party and consolidating their power within the Labour Party, that perhaps they might have been able to exclude someone like Keir Starmer or minimise someone like Keir Starmer, who is now doing a very ruthless and efficient job of consolidating the power base of his faction, the Labour Party.
But that's been going on for years and is not... I don't think that that's much to do with Starmer. I mean, it is, but I would credit that to Morgan McSweeney.
Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at what happened in 2017, when Corbyn became leader, Morgan McSweeney sets up Labour Together, starts raising donations, begins breaking the Labour Party away from outlets like the Canary and other left-wing similar outlets, joining together like Labour Together and The Guardian, setting up the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, which was its main focus was to counter anti-Semitism. All of those moves that he was making early on, he was making before he'd even selected Starmer as the heir to the leadership, right? In 2017, when he sets up Labour Together, he's not got his eye on Starmer. He's looking for the right candidate.
Yeah.
It's not until 2018, maybe late 2018, where he decides that Brexit Secretary Starmer is the heir. Like, I think the position was created for him rather than the position created around him, would be my view.
Got you. What do you reckon, Ed? Return of New Labour?
No, I think your point about much more statist than New Labour, as in they were working. I really doubt that Starmer's going to introduce PPIs in that sort of like Blairite.
He had a big old BlackRock thing, didn't he?
Oh,
PFI.
oh my god, you forgot about that.
Yeah.
PFI. What's a PPI?
Well, that's like the
banking
personal
thing.
protection insurance. I was like,
Before you missed all PPI.
Yeah.
Well, I also think Starmer as a litigator would be really reluctant to sign off on like a PPI deal, but a PFI deal I think would be much less.
there was something about them bringing back PFIs.
What went wrong?
There was something about that when that Eli Lilly company was donating. What was that? It'd be good if I could remember.
Would be good.
Anyway.
We don't hear as much about PPI anymore.
Do you think that's because they made all the claims?
I think they must have run out. There's a ceiling.
Tough. It's a tough market right now to be a PPI.
That
Claimer.
BlackRock messaging was insane.
The what?
The just being like, great news, lads. I've had dinner with BlackRock. That's
Who
not
said that?
great.
Starmer.
When?
He put a
Last
tweet
week,
out on
yeah.
Friday, didn't he?
He put a tweet on Friday saying, I've had dinner with
Great,
Black.
like phenomenal. Just had a very productive dinner with BlackRock.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Because that's what we were talking about with all of the farming stuff, that it was
Yep.
potentially going to, it would be places like BlackRock who would buy it all up.
Oh, great news. I'm forcing the farmers from their land. So my good friends at BlackRock can make their own.
We had a good pod back in the day as well, didn't we, with Matt from Commonwealth talking about BlackRock.
Yeah, we all really enjoyed that.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite good.
We could tell.
Yeah. Me and Ed, like,
Me and Ava sitting on that side of the desk.
we actually were like, you were like, tell me more. Tell me no more. Enough.
Do you know what irritates me? Oh, here we go. Right, got to the tweet. I'm determined to deliver growth, create wealth, and put more money in people's pockets. This can only be achieved by working in partnership with leading businesses like BlackRock to capitalise on the UK's position as a world-leading hub for investment.
I think pick a different company. I think that's like we're picking. I'm here with
Raytheon.
I'm here with my good friends Evil Incorporated to promote British businesses. Like BlackRock is just
What
a
was the-
byword for like massive
The excesses
shadowy
of capital.
business.
Well, when
Yeah.
they want to do they want to use the private healthcare to blitz through the waiting list, they should use that company that lost like 200,000 COVID tests.
Yeah.
That would be a good one to
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
Because, COVID, fine. But if they lost cancer tests, well, then you could just say 200,000 people don't have cancer. Easy way.
Great news, guys.
Yeah.
All clear.
Yeah. We've lost the mammograms. Ah!
Benefits crackdowns too. Benefits crackdowns are floating around, aren't they? Liz Kendall. That's another Blair, right?
Yes.
That's another Blair, right? Liz Kendall.
Yes, if young people are going to have their benefits taken away if they refuse to go to work. Because young people, traditionally, you would rather, as a single person claiming universal credit, you get so much money.
Yeah, rolling
you
in
would
it.
obviously rather stay at home
Absolutely
than go to
rolling
work
in it, yeah.
and be fulfilled.
Do you know there is another group in society who I'm fed up of claiming their benefits and not going to work?
Mm-hmm.
Pensioners.
Okay, but now it's going to make it look like my point was serious. I was joking, but
I mean, I kind of was joking, but also not. Yeah, I think it's just unfair, isn't it? Stigmatising.
there is something very interesting about the argument of pensioners paid in their whole lives to the system. And it's like, well, everyone's paid in their whole lives to the system.
Yeah, well, I think
We've
people
all paid
think
in.
that like their national insurance contribution is basically like going into a pot that will pay their pension, and it's not. It's just a tax, and a pension is a benefit.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm not even that sure that they're actually keeping track of what money has gone into that pension pot.
Is that your private pension, or is this?
Oh, I've got no idea where my private pension is.
I think you should have more of a handle on that.
I give it to my dad, like he knows.
And he spends it.
I don't think it would be worth it.
He thinks Ava's just like giving him 20 quid. Great.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be worth it. I think that he did make a joke once where I was like, "How's my pension?" And he was like, "You should marry well." Like, so
I think the good thing about universal credit is how life affirming it is to be in that system.
What do you mean?
Like, you know, people get you get it from work and stuff. Like
You're stressed out.
you get a sense of purpose at least.
Yeah, well, your men's mental health suffers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Got to pay bills.
and do you know what's life affirming? Jumping through hoops.
Yeah, meeting work counsellors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
for
there's
sure.
something what I don't quite understand is that the government, they're like the ministerial brief shows that they've identified that there is a real problem with PIP and how people get taken off of PIP unfairly, and then they lose out for a
Yep.
couple of weeks, and that could actually mean that their entire life falls apart.
Yep.
But at the same time, the brief also seems to instruct them to say on the morning rounds that young people should be taken off of their benefits and pushed into work.
Yeah, scrounging a living.
It doesn't. It's sort of like, but how can both things be true at once? It's either bad to take someone off on a cliff edge, off of the money that they need to live, to eat, or it's not. Do you know what I mean?
This is the kind of thing for me, and again, with Starmer's Labour Party, is that I actually think there's quite a significant rhetorical gap, quite often with the way that they speak publicly and the messaging they put in the media, speeches they give, and then the way they actually govern. The example I've given before was when they gave the big public sector pay rises, and then Rachel Reeves is up in the Commons, barely mentions it, and is talking about how painful the budget's going to be. Like, there are similar examples, and it's almost as if, I think it's quite a cynical thing to do, because essentially what you're doing is eroding trust in politicians if the things that you say publicly are not what you do actually. The other way of looking at it is that it's sort of media management and comms strategy to essentially talk a harder game than you're actually implementing.
Mm-hmm. The comms strategy is bad.
Yeah, it's pretty dreadful.
I'd say so.
They have been announcing policies, realizing that they don't sit favourably with the public, and then spend the next 4 days backtracking and making the policy so convoluted and confusing that no one actually really knows what the detail is anymore.
Smoking ban in pub gardens.
Well, I mean, I was thinking with the farming as well, like Dan Needle, who's that tax expert, he originally said that there was no problem at all with what they were planning to do to farmers. And then a few days later, having looked at actually their policy, presumably because he'd been listening to the words coming out of the Labour ministers' mouths rather than actually reading the policy. And you would think that those two things would be the same.
You would think so.
He was like, oh, actually, got just to revise everything I've just said. No, this is not great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually think I referenced him in one of our pods about this last week, perhaps, and him basically saying that you could offset it with certain types of insurance.
He's majorly backtracked.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's bad for them.
It is bad for them because it's not adding up. It's sort of like the winter fuel policy. When they originally announced that they were taking it away, they were quite proud of it. They were like, we're taking it away from all those people who don't need it, da, da, da. And then they backtracked for days and days and days. This pension credit line, it took 3 days to come out that actually we just want to move people onto pension credit. No, you don't. You never did. You never wanted to move them onto pension credit. But because your comms have been so abysmal, you're now having to try and wriggle your way out of it.
Bad at comms.
Bad at comms.
Bad at comms, good at war.
Very good.
That's another new Labour shade.
No, because they were good at comms. They tricked the entire nation into believing that Saddam Hussein could hit us with nuclear weapons in 45 minutes.
That's what they're saying now about Putin.
Regardless of, the morality of lying about something like that, everyone believed it.
Yeah,
that's comms masterstroke.
Yep.
Well, why do you think that was? Because I guess it was a generation of voters who were fresh out of the Cold War, who'd been hiding under their desks and doing drills and things like that.
Yeah, it really wasn't that long after, I suppose.
If it's on the front page of all the papers as well, I mean, you probably believe it.
The diagram of Hussein's bunker as well. That was on all the front pages.
Have you seen that they're going to hit Liverpool before us? I always banked on we'd be dead. That's what I want.
We will die.
No, but I'm like, I don't want to feel no acid rain. I don't want to know that there's been a nuclear attack.
We were talking about this
I want to know that I'm just gone.
I would be curious as to see what happens afterwards,
brother.
I don't think you do well in the apocalypse.
I don't know. I'm not saying I'd do well at all.
You got burnt one time on like a winter's day shoot when it was like 10 degrees outside. Like, what do you?
I remember that you came back pink.
Yeah. So, what do you think you're going to be like in?
Okay.
Pink like a salmon.
Can we have any more details about the shoot you've just made up?
I can't remember what the shoot was. It was like December.
Right.
You came back and you looked like someone had embarrassed you in public.
Right.
Like
okay.
Your face was red.
Yeah.
But actually, that was just your pallor. You caught the sun in December.
I just don't believe that this happened.
Right.
So I don't think that you'd be all right in. Like,
I'm not saying I'd be all right, but I think I'd be curious.
Do you know who Nikita Khrushchev is?
Yes.
The living will envy the dead.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to experience that?
I'm just saying, you're not minorly curious about it.
Did you read On the Road?
Absolutely not.
Pardon?
Did you read On the Road?
The Road or On the Road?
The Road.
I read. Actually, no.
I actually love Kerouac. What about the Beat Generation?
I read Half of the Road and found
On the Road was actually a dystopian novel about an exploration into men's mental health.
I've seen Cormac McCarthy's been cancelled.
Why?
He had a 16-year-old muse.
They were all at it back then, weren't they?
I've not finished one of his books before,
Did
so...
he
Have sex with her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Do you know what? That means there's no good McCarthys.
What? Can you have a
The other one
muse?
being McCarthyism.
Yeah.
That,
Is it-
he was-
Yeah, no.
No, because he was like this.
I was thinking of more.
More
I got
McCarthy.
to McCarthyism.
Mick McCarthy?
He's quite good.
Yeah, he's actually quite good, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have a muse and not shag her? Like, could she just...
Is a muse just like a woman who you have sex with and you also do art?
Basically, you can get out of like talking to them afterwards if you say that you're my muse and you have to run off and go and write immediately after the act.
Have I told you about the art exhibition in Portugal I went to? This is going to...
Don't think so.
We're in Lisbon and went to this modern art museum, and it was a Portuguese artist who had curated an exhibition of his own work, but he died during the process. So it was quite like a weird... That was like the tension at the heart of the exhibition, was like, it was like a living memorial. Lots of it was quite good, lots of it was quite shit. But the funniest bit was there was a cinema element where in the 70s, so you went into this like tiny projector room. In the 70s, this guy just got girls to come to his apartment and kiss, and he filmed it. And he said it was art. He probably said they were his muses as well. I'm not sure that is art. If you're just getting women to kiss in front of you.
You've just been getting away with it, haven't you, lot?
It's not
Getting
outrageous.
away with it.
Men are
yeah.
quite bad, aren't they?
Oh, you'd be like, oh yeah, babe. Come and kiss and I'll film it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I'll be there.
Imagine falling for that as well.
Ed back on his bullshit.
Yeah, but how old were they?
Ooh, I'm assuming adults. I hope adults.
It's sort of like there is a reading of Lolita that I don't mind other women having made, like an interpretation of it,
Right.
where they're like, you can see that he was clearly mentally ill and his brain was stuck in that age, and that's why he fell in love with her. And I don't mind a woman making that observation, right? But one time I remember a man making it, and I remember being like, whoa,
You sick fuck.
you read Lolita and you felt sorry for the paedophile. What do you mean? That's like being like, well, it can't have been comfortable for Saddam in that hole. Like,
Well, it can't have been. You can make observations about human comfort.
or like, I don't know, that terrorist must have found flying that plane very confusing.
He'd have been very anxious that day.
He probably had to have a beta blocker.
His men's mental health can't have been great.
Yeah. Woody Allen
neither
made some
could,
good films. I bet one of you have one of those sort of observations.
What?
don't you?
What Woody Allen makes good films?
Woody Allen. What do you think's worse? 9/11 or Woody Allen?
Well, New York's the main character in both.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
because Manhattan, that was the.
would... Question for you, okay. Or statement. Woody Allen could have done 9/11. Bin Laden couldn't do Annie Hall. The one who must not be named shouted.
That
could
was
Bush have.
one of your best. Wow. Well,
I have no response.
I don't know how good Bin Laden's English was, so he probably couldn't have like, written the
I think
script.
pretty immaculate, wasn't it?
Was it?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't know.
what
was-
language
he
was
was-
Letter to America written
He
in?
was an international scholar. I'm pretty sure he studied in the West, didn't he?
And that's how we'll get him,
Osama?
not being bilingual.
I tell you what, actually, the sort of the aesthetics and politics of the early noughties are actually, they've been back for some time.
Y2K.
Letter to America was fucking... That was banging on TikTok for a while, wasn't it?
Do you know what? Good for them. I always think of that tweet that's like, is school illegal in America?
Because of Letter from America to America.
It's so good, where it was like, they'd have the letter in the background and then they'd be on like this green screen on TikTok and it'd be like some, like, well, beatnik knockoff being like, you know, yeah.
He's bang on, this guy.
Yeah.
Now to Google one thing about him.
Going to find out more about this Osama bin Laden.
I think that's why Prescott dying, I was like, I was trying to work out, like, why am I sad about this? And I was like, I think it was as a result of aging, because Jen Prescott used to be on the news all the time when you were wee, and now he's dead.
Yeah.
And now I'm 28 and I'm not 6.
Prescott.
Yeah.
Is he your Osama or your Obama?
I think he's certainly more Obama than Osama. That's a good category of people.
I do yearn for politicians of his ilk, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes deeper than just like a symbol of your childhood passing, because I think he's actually emblematic of more, that he's not just a part of a trapping of Y2K. You know, he's a working class autodidact who like was in politics for 50 years, wasn't afraid to he hit someone when they egged him, wasn't afraid to take his arguments to people that disagreed with him and was able to make them. That clip of him on Top Gear is the one I'm thinking of that went viral, where like the Top Gear audience basically hate him and he just stands up and starts having an argument with them. There is no way that a Reeves or a Starmer does the same thing in that situation.
I don't think political culture lets them. Imagine like a Labour frontbencher now hit somebody. Imagine Darren Jones thumped somebody.
But Darren Jones isn't that personality. I actually could imagine him, if he got egged, I could actually imagine him swinging.
I think he's thinking, well, I love my job at the Treasury so much that the Starmer machine would force me out, because
I don't think so.
I think there's no way that the political culture is so they try to, well, the comms isn't great, but they don't want anything authentic or anything spontaneous.
They really don't. I thought the write-ups of Prescott after his death a lot of them were appalling. Really? The real like reliant on him being working class, stood up for working class values. The tone was off. It was like he was a trade unionist, all right. He wasn't like, you know, he didn't used to stand at the dispatch box singing "Mild Man's a Dustman." Like, do you know what I mean? It's so patronising.
I actually don't think he would have a place in Starmer's Labour Party.
No, of course he wouldn't. He's red as anything. Yeah. You're joking.
Trade unionist, very vocal on Palestinian rights. Yeah.
I wonder how long Bridget Phillipson's going to last as Education Secretary.
Oh, okay. What makes you say that?
No, I was just tumbling it earlier. It's such a bizarre appointment.
Do you think?
Why?
Zero personality.
As opposed to the cabinet of charisma.
No, but just doesn't.
She sticks out like a sore thumb.
She's not even able. She's not even able to deliver a line effectively. You know, on last Monday, I was listening to her on Radio 4. It's the morning after the US have announced that they're going to allow US missiles to be used from Ukraine into Russia.
The ATACMS.
And she's on Radio 4 the next morning, and the answers she's giving are, when you're talking about war, right, I don't think that you can fluff an answer. You've got to be really clear on it.
Quite high stakes.
Yeah. She's just like, well, a decision will be made. Like, you know, we'll have to wait and see what the Prime Minister's going to say. Just like continuously fluffing this answer. And it wasn't just in one interview. It was like over like the 5 that she did that morning. I listened to that and I thought, how long before they boot you out?
See, I'm quite concerned about the use of the weapons, to be honest with you.
Right.
Like the ATACMS, the use of our Storm Shadow cruise missiles to attack Russia. Like that's escalatory. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I would have thought so.
And then the Russians fire like a missile that can be set up as an intercontinental ballistic missile and fire it at Ukraine. And you're kind of going, maybe we shouldn't have Bridget Phillipson out making the arguments about this.
This is what I'm
Maybe
saying.
the Prime Minister
Creeping
should.
closer. Yeah.
I thought that whole morning, I was thinking, why on earth is Bridget Phillipson on this media round? They should have pulled the minister. This is what I'm talking about with Labour's comms. They should have pulled the minister all together, and they should have said, this is a moment so serious in this war that actually we need to just regroup and have a quick ring over to America and go, listen, lads, what have you sent? Because we're not sure what we should send. The Arsenal signed football shirt to Putin for Christmas, or should I cancel?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like the logic of the Kremlin, right? But they're trying to impose this on the West and test the resolve of Ukraine's allies. But it's starting to force the issue when the Russians are deploying weaponry that's never been used on the battlefield before and can carry nuclear warheads, and so they had to use the nuclear de-escalatory channels to alert the Americans to the strike before they made it. You're sort of going, are a few eastern provinces of Ukraine worth nuclear Armageddon? And the answer is clearly no.
Okay, I didn't think we were going to have this big of a discussion right now.
No, either. But as in, the argument is, are you willing to?
God, I've been invited to play football against the politicians in December. Should I do it? Would you like to do it? Do you want to do it?
Not particularly.
Oh.
Do you?
No, then I don't want people thinking that I'm interested in all that.
Football.
Back to the discussion.
Back to the discussion.
I didn't think we were going to have a conversation as big as this.
It says war ? On the rundown.
Oh,
you
well, I'm
can't see
sorry.
the
If anyone can want to have a look at my rundown.
So argument against, like, can you stand up to Russian aggression?
The argument that a good friend of mine makes, Luke McGee, who was defence at CNN for quite some time, is that it is much cheaper to preserve the Crimea and to keep funding Ukraine than it is to annex that part of Crimea. Having said that, there is also an argument that if Trump is to annex it, that might de-escalate.
Yeah.
I think it's the escalation argument as well of once, right, if you stop standing up to Russia on Ukraine, they're looking to other border countries like Estonia, and it just escalates. Because like Putinism, Eurasianism, part of it is the expansion of Russian ideas about a greater Russia. And so if you let them take this, it keeps expanding westwards. And is that something that we really want to contend with?
Either way, I do think we should be hearing a bit more about it. I would quite like to have a bit more information from the defence and foreign secs about it. Sorry, what's going on over there? You know?
From them personally?
Well, I mean, I would quite like to know. At least under the Conservatives, you knew what was going on because he'd be flying over there all the time. Johnson, wouldn't he? And saying things like, we must fund the illegal war.
And then the Russians have said we're directly involved. And you see, I'm not saying that the two things are necessarily connected, but there's been all these fucking drone sightings around military bases, bomb hoaxes all around the country. You're sort of wondering, I don't necessarily think we would ever come into, maybe this is wishful thinking, military conflict with Russia. You'd hope not, wouldn't you, two nuclear armed powers, but that the nature of conflict between our two nations is always going to be sort of cybersecurity, economic sanction, trade warfare, and obviously in the past the fucking Russians have been happy to assassinate people on British soil. So
yeah, I'm not sure how much that economic sanctions have really worked on the Russia thing.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of the problem, right? Because the unintended consequence is that you drive Russia closer to China and Iran because they're the only people who are prepared to sort of do deals on the natural resources with them, and you're creating this new axis of power within global politics. Scary times.
It's a real moment for Britain, do you not think, that Biden went ahead and announced that they would be using their weapons in an offensive manner?
Yeah, striking inside Russia.
And quite clearly had not spoken to anyone in the UK government about it before. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, where they go, we follow, right?
Sure, but I do think, at least with Blair and Bush, there was this sort of like, we're going to have a little quick chat about this. you know, because you are the window into Europe.
Yeah.
We were
Whereas
also-
well, Biden and the administration clearly doesn't think that we are.
I suppose also, well, we were one of the few, like with Bush, we were one of the few people to go, great idea, Iraq. I love this. Like, they needed us a lot more than
I guess
they
there's
do
a whole
now.
argument, though, isn't there, with like Gorbachev and Thatcher, that actually he didn't. Well, that he didn't really care very much about the UK, and Thatcher was just sort of pushing herself in and getting herself involved with it. It wasn't really anything to do with us, but we were like, hey, nuke us too.
You got to go through us.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the next general election?
Brought about imminently, I think,
Uh-huh.
because of this petition.
And that's the way the Constitution works. Is a gov.uk petition.
Not if they nuke us first.
That's true. That's a good point.
What would you prefer, nuclear annihilation or another general election this year?
This year,
Nuclear
because it's
annihilation.
only 4 weeks till Christmas.
Oh, shit.
Have you just remembered that?
Yeah.
Why did you panic then?
Oh, it's so soon.
He's got a baby now. He's got to be Santa.
Sorry, I have to buy a beard. I need to put on weight. Fuck.
I suppose she won't remember this.
No, just the passing of time.
She won't really be aware of this
The
Christmas.
passing of time.
It's a fucker.
Right.
Well, why did you undermine my John Prescott point then? That's what...
Steady on.
The petition.
It's good.
What do you like about it?
I love the breathlessness with which the people who like it's so opportunistic and so cynical to be like an unverified petition on the internet means that we're going to go against like the Fixed Term Parliament Act.
What is signing a petition if not seeking opportunity?
Well, whoa. I've never considered it in those terms before. That was amazing.
The thing that doesn't make sense to me is that they're not the person who's written the petition isn't even asking for anything that's like feasibly debatable in Westminster
No,
Hall.
it's just
Because
we're
if
gonna
it
have
was
one.
something like a revision of the Fixed Term Parliament Act or something like that, then you'd be like, okay, well, there's actually a debate that could be had here. But if the debate is, should we have a general election?
No.
No.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean?
So ordered.
His answer was a bit strange.
Michael guy?
No, Starmer.
Oh, Keir.
They asked him about it.
I thought he came off all right in that.
He said something like...
Sorry, Ed, hand me your boot for a minute, if you don't mind.
he said something like, I understand some people want a rerun, or some. He said I didn't watch him say it. I just saw it written down, and it didn't make any sense to me.
Some people wonder. I suppose he just like makes the point. Not everyone voted for me, so those people would like to go again.
Yeah.
I suppose that's what he's talking about. Do you know what- do
He's
you know-
been like, you guys are fucking losers.
Do you know what I loved this weekend?
What?
On Laura Kuenssberg, there was they're talking about assisted dying, and someone just wrote in saying, "This should be subject to a referendum." Imagine the toxicity of that debate of just declaring
Everything.
Referendum!
Everything should be a referendum.
I declare referenda.
I'm changing on assisted dying.
Are you?
Oh yeah.
I'm moving toward no.
You were very
Catholics
very
fucking
pro.
getting you.
Catholics are getting me. No, I was thinking
that
about.
sinister pod that you all liked.
Pardon?
Do you know the pod, the death pod, and
Oh, the death
General-
pod. Yeah.
Not for me.
I
that.
just don't.
Did some people get strangled in that?
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know.
Sorry, some people were allegedly strangled in the death pod.
Basically,
I'm not sure what they thought that might happen.
They got into the death pod. The death pod.
God, well, that was quick.
Smash the glass open. Nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide, my arse.
It was the invisible hand of the market.
Wait, is nitrous oxide in the death pod?
Is that
Yeah.
they replace the oxygen with the gas?
It's
and you
laughing gas.
and you slowly like just
I don't-
drift
Black
off.
out.
Is it nitrous oxide or is it just nitrogen? It might be nitrous. I
One
don't
of
know.
them.
I'm not a chemist.
Just an advocate of the death pod.
I suppose they do use that. They do use it as an anaesthetic, don't they? So
Yeah, I've moved. Would you like to hear my reasoning?
yeah, go
Yes.
shoot.
The legislation is 6 to 12 months diagnosis for end of life, right? That's the only time that you can access it. You have to be dying within 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
that I think is punitive, and I don't think is, because why I think that you should be able to have it is if you are in chronic, unlivable pain and life is a misery for you, then I think you should be able to access it, but it won't help those people.
No, that's assisted suicide, what
Yes.
you're talking about. But this is assisted dying.
And the other point was, I imagine the burden on the person. If you were suddenly, God forbid, you found yourself in a terminal situation and you needed 24/7 care from your loved ones or expensive nurses or anything like that, I think there would be an onus on you, or you would feel like you should go and kill yourself because you felt you were a burden. And I also think that there's a situation where family members it would turn ugly and they'd be like, you have access to the death, to death now.
What
Go
do you mean
and
you
do
want
it.
to sell your house?
Huh?
What do you mean you want to sell your house? That's my inheritance.
I don't think it's about that. I think it's more like, because I'm thinking about like my nonna, and I can imagine she would have done that to lift the onus off of my mum, because my mum was having to look after her all the time. You would do it out of guilt that you were a burden on someone.
Is it guilt?
I think so.
Feeling you
It's
were in the
it's
way.
love, isn't it?
What?
But not if you're the recipient.
If you, so typically the dynamic is parent to child, right? It's someone who's older and doesn't want to be a burden on their children because they have spent their entire lives. The dynamic is reversed. Their job is to care, provide, facilitate for the younger one, and so the idea that they will become a burden for their own children, like it's like it's anathema to a parent, right? If that is what they want to do, why not let them?
Yeah, no, look, I get that, because I do fundamentally believe that it's your body, so you should be allowed to choose what you do with it. But there's something about that doesn't sit right with me, that people would do it out of...
I think the concern is about people being pressured into doing it, right? And there obviously has to be safeguarding in place.
But
It's very
pressure,
hard to-
pressure comes about in all sorts of forms, right?
Yeah.
Pressure's not necessarily someone saying, "I'd like your house, can you please die?"
Yeah, and I think that's why they're doing assisted dying rather than assisted suicide,
Yeah.
right? Because it's only there if you're terminal.
Much harder to exploit then.
Yeah.
I'm not confident on it. I'm not confident on the current legislation.
2 doctors and a judge would need to sign you off.
I wonder if the focus should be on end of life care and funding that rather than funding assisted dying.
Could have both.
You can have both, but it does sort of feel at the moment, when you've got politicians going on and on about how there's no money and that it does feel like it's an either or.
I feel like often at times as well, palliative care does end up being assisted dying, right?
Of course it does.
Yeah, they whack you out on morphine to such an extent that there's only one outcome.
And you have a do not resuscitate order
Yeah.
on you, then yeah.
You're there, yeah. This is a cheery place to finish the
It
pod.
is a
We've
cheery
ticked
place,
off
isn't it?
a return to authoritarian censorism. We've ticked off nuclear Armageddon, and we've ticked off assisted dying.
And the filmmaking legacy of Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, there was some light in all the shade.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
Which Woody Allen films do you think he could have made?
I think a lot of
Vicky
the
Cristina
examples, though,
Barcelona?
the case studies that they're using for assisted dying won't even count under the legislation.
This is like the duality of the podcast, isn't it?
What?
You just whittering on about Woody Allen films whilst Ava poses like quite serious questions about
started speaking-
like end of life.
I
and
started-
Sorry, I know you
I-
want me to shut up.
No,
Sorry.
I'm
No, no.
being like, that's the
Sorry.
beauty of the podcast.
Yeah,
I actually kind of wanted him to shut up, if I'm honest.
But also, I was speaking first.
That is how it works. Famously, that's how
I know,
it
but
works.
you had already made the
done it.
Woody Allen joke.
Yeah, but
done
then,
it-
and
done
then
it
you
before,
whined
haven't
on about assisted dying for 5 minutes. We all have our vices.
Please. Let's all love each other.
What's the youngest muse you've ever had?
I think the interesting question is, what's the oldest muse Ed's ever had?
Yeah, what's the oldest muse you've ever had?
How old is your nonna?
How old was my mum?
It only took doing this for 18 months before we descended to like your mum jokes.
Yeah,
It was actually your nonna jokes.
Yeah, it's different.
your mum's mum.
Everybody happy?
Your mum's
Ish.
mum is so old, she'd be my muse.
Got an upper threshold.
Your mum's mum is so old she doesn't even qualify for assisted dying.
I think you made a your mum joke to me the other day.
It was a your wife joke about 2 months ago.
Your wife is 2 months old.
She's my youngest muse, yeah. Right.
Shall we?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
That was abysmal.
It was quite bad, wasn't it?
I liked it.